Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm Fiona Sanchez, the Conservation Manager from Irvine Ranch Water District, and I'm going to talk a little bit about water budgets, tiered rates, and really kind of what it might mean to you. I'm just really curious in the audience, how many of you are property managers? Are any of you property managers? Okay. And then landscapers? Okay, then cities. Okay, just wanted to get an idea of who's here. So I'll share really briefly a little bit about IRWD. I'm going to talk about water budgets, tiered rates, and then really what I think you want to know is how that's going to impact your landscape costs and where you can save. So Irvine Ranch Water District, we're actually located in Orange County. We're about 20% of Orange County. And so we serve all of the city of Irvine, plus portions of 6 other cities and unincorporated county. And we have been practicing water use efficiency at least since the late 90s, if not earlier. It's something we took to heart very early on. I'm going to talk to you about a water budget-based rate structure that we have that we actually adopted almost 20 years ago. We've also been a leader in doing studies and researching new technology, weather-based irrigation controllers. We were one of the agencies that first studied those. We have very effective landscape irrigation programs, and I'll share a little bit about some of those with you. I'm not going to focus on them today, but we obviously also have programs for our residential, commercial customers too. So let's see, water budgets. What's a water budget and why would you care? Kind of in simple terms, a budget for anybody is usually just a list of your expenses and your revenues. And really, you come up with a plan for how you can save. And you know what I like to do is spend, so a plan for how you can spend, how you use the money. A water budget, real simply, is just a plan for managing your water use and saving the water that you might be wasting. And in that way, you're going to also save money and a lot of other things too. Typically, one of your major costs of landscape maintenance might be water. That isn't going to change. I was just chatting with in Metropolitan, as you met, Tim, they provide all the imported water to Southern California. We're a water agency that sells direct to customers, but we buy water from Metropolitan as well as have local supplies. Our cost of imported water from Metropolitan over the last 5 years has gone up 75%. And that is because, as you heard, so why do all these things about shortages in the state, why do they all matter? Because ultimately, the costs for all of us are going up. And that means water rates might be going up, and guess where you can save? By really managing your water and looking at your water bills. So it really helps if you're tracking your water use versus your actual use. And your water budget is one of the great tools that can be pretty cheap to help you do that. It can be as much as tracking it on a piece of paper or in Excel, or it can get more complex than that. So really, how would you use a water budget? Calculate how much water your site actually needs. Well, how would you know that? That's a good question, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more on that later today. So I'm not going to get too much into the specifics, but if you really want to calculate it, you probably would need to know how much acreage you have on that site. How much landscape are you actually irrigating? And if you don't know, then I would really recommend that you find out, because how would you know whether you're wasting water or not if you don't know how much water you're supposed to be putting out there? It might be worth it to have your landscaper measure, or look if you've got landscape plans, or find out. And then there are general formulas that you can use to estimate how much water you would need. And a lot of us water agencies, water utilities, we're not the only one, Eastern Municipal, Western, a lot of us utilize water budgets and have tools to help you figure that out and actually work with your water budget on a monthly basis. And I'll just show you, this is a graph from a customer potentially. This was just done in Excel. You put in the water use, you put in how much the budget should be, and it kind of shows some interesting things. The red line is actually how much water that customer should have been using. And the blue bars show monthly how much they were using. And you might notice that there's kind of a pattern in the fall months where the water use gets really over budget. Guess where maybe the customer might need to be saving, or where there's an opportunity to cut back on water use. So just by tracking, you can sort of identify these patterns. I talked a little bit about water costs increasing, imported water is going up. we have a lot of constraints. Water agencies are going to be looking on how they can keep their costs low. One way we can keep our costs low is if we don't have to import as much expensive water, and we can use our local resources more effectively. If we can help you do that, if we can utilize recycled water, that's better for us, keeps your rates low. But you really want to be looking at your water bills because your costs are going to be going up. And we're doing everything we can to control that, but there's still going to be a cost issue there. As a result, what a lot of agencies are moving to are they're adopting water budget-based conservation rate structures or tiered rate structures. Agencies are beginning to look at how we can use our rate structure to communicate to our customers how water is being used. If we figure if you see a high bill, that's our message to you that you might have a water waste problem. And we might be able to get your attention a little bit better through your pocketbook and hopefully have us come help you figure out how to get out of that situation. But you are going to see those costs increasing. And obviously customers who are wasting water, they're going to be the customers who are going to be most heavily impacted. So allocation-based and budget-based rate structures, IRWD adopted back almost 20 years ago. For a long time, we were the only one out there. I can tell you that over the past few years, there are a number of agencies, some in this room and in Southern California, where they are looking toward this model because this is a very fair, equitable way to bill customers. So how does the IRWD one work? Basically, we allocate our water based on your site-specific use and your landscape needs. We know for all of our sites how much irrigated acreage there is. And we do the little math, just like you could do, and we figure out how much you need. It's adjusted for climate, and it's fair and equitable. It's based on water need. So we don't just come and go, well, we're in a shortage this year. Guess what? Everybody cut 10%. Well, that might sound fair, except if I've been saving all along and I've got to cut 10%, is that going to be easier for me, or is it going to be easier for the guy down the road that's been wasting all along? And I tell him to cut 10%. So what a water budget-based rate structure is, look at the equity of that, and we allocate the amount of water that you need for your site. So we are encouraging you to use water within the allocation through significantly, that's my favorite word here, tiered commodity pricing system. And I'll show a little bit about how we do that. Through our bill and our rate structure, we provide economic incentives to reward efficient use and then disincentives if you're being wasteful. So IRWD's landscape allocations, I mentioned, they're based on your irrigated area, and we use evapotranspiration, ET, as a measure of how much water you would need for your site. And as of July 2009, the basis that we use at IRWD is we use a crop coefficient for warm season turf. It averages about 0.6 over the course of a year. We figure if you're going to put turf, put in something that's more drought tolerant. But we also assume that you got that wall-to-wall turf. And we know that most likely most landscapes don't have that. You've got a mix of plant material. We also adopted the irrigation efficiency of 71%, which exactly mirrors what's in the model landscape ordinance for that efficiency. So really our allocation should still be more water than you actually need on site. And I thought I'd just show you a comparison. Back in 1991, we actually gave a little bit more water. We assumed cool season turf and a different efficiency level. We updated that last year. And for point of comparison, the model ordinance that's been talked about is the one right down there at the bottom, the 71%. That has an ET adjustment factor of 0.7. We're actually a little bit more generous than that. We give you 0.84. If you have a site, you still have to comply with the model landscape ordinance. It's just that on your billing from the water district, we're going to give you a little bit more water. So you wouldn't be in compliance with the model ordinance if you weren't meeting there, but we give you a little bit of buffer. Where do we get ET data from? You heard about the SIMA system. There is SIMA system. IRWD, we actually have 3 climate zones within our service area, and we actually maintain our own weather stations. So we get data in daily that we can use for billing purposes. if you're a water agency that wanted to do that, CIMMYS has wetter stations. CIMMYS also has a new thing called spatial CIMMYS, and you can get that information for free. Or if your water agency doesn't have anything like this and you're a water manager and you want to find out how much you need for your site and you need that ET data, you can get it right from the CIMMYS website for free. And it's actually, I think, now at 2 square kilometer resolution that you can get that data. So when I talked about significant tiers, this is what I was meaning. We actually have 5 tiers for our landscape accounts, and our rates are relatively low for the first 2 tiers. Our first 2 tiers give you 100% of the water you need for your site. So the first 40%, we actually even give you an incentive. We say, hey, if you're that efficient, we're going to give you a low volume price break. So that's 91 cents per 100 cubic feet. And for those not familiar with 100 cubic feet, that's 748 gallons. That's a heck of a lot of bottled water for 91 cents. So then the next tier, our base rate, is $1.21. So that's really all your water you should be able to get at those 2 tiers. But what if you're not managing your site very efficiently? What if you're using water in a wasteful way? Well, then you're going to pay for the next 10%, you're going to pay about double the cost for each CCF. So it goes to $2.50. What if you're even more wasteful than that and now you're excessive? Well, again, you're going to pay double. You're going to pay 4 times for all the water in that tier for the next 10%. $4.32. And I'm sure that it doesn't apply to anyone in this room, but what if you were really wasteful? Anything more than 120% over budget, you're going to be paying close to $10 for that water per CCF, $9.48. These are our new rates we just adopted this year. We actually also have a water budget for recycled water. You get a rate discount, but at IRWD, we think that all water is a valuable resource and can't be wasted. So you'd be on the same water budget, you just get a little bit different price. You get a price break. So as you can see, it gets really expensive really fast with these types of rate structures to be wasteful. And here's a sample bill. This particular customer, this is from last year, so you'll see the rates are a little bit different. We just changed our rates. This is an actual customer. This is their actual bill. And they got a big shock when they got this bill because they received a bill for $1,042. And this is for 1/3 of an acre in 1 month. Guess what? They called us. But you can see their bill should have been around about $54, $50, $60. The first 2 tiers is where their water use should have been. They should have been paying us about $60 and instead got a bill for about $1,000 because of that wasteful use. And you can see they had their allocation was 5,400 cubic feet. They actually used 181. So what we do actually with that money that we get from those penalty tiers is we use it to fund our programs for water use efficiency, to provide landscape irrigation upgrades and other programs to help our customers be efficient. So it actually all comes back in later, but you know, we want to send a very strong message, and we think this is a strong message that we can send. And also, these costs are based on our cost to buy that expensive water. It's directly tied to if I had to buy expensive water from Tim. So. So we've had this rate structure in place, I mentioned, almost 20 years. I'll be 20 years next year. The average water use in our service area for landscape, it dropped from what used to be 4.4 acre feet per acre per year to about 1.9 acre feet per acre per year. And I don't know if any of you visited Irvine or Southern Orange County, but we're not all rocks and cacti. We have very beautiful landscapes. What's happened is that our property managers, our landscapers have learned to work with a water budget and work with our rate structure. In fact, we've even had some landscapers say, I don't want to work in your service area. I actually have to really work for it. Well, you know, that's what we want. We want you practicing water management. Property managers need to understand what they're seeing when they get a water bill. We have seen a change in plant materials and selection, but that doesn't account for all of this shift. From 1992 to 2000 in our service area, the irrigated area, the amount of landscape that we were irrigating doubled, but our water use for irrigation only increased by 3%. That's showing you the extent of savings. And if you're not in our service area and think, I don't have to worry about that, water agencies, this is the model that they're looking at because of all these pressures that we're just, that Mark and Tim were explaining. So I think, you need to be prepared and need to be planning for things like this. This again is just showing you the green is actually landscape water use from when we adopted it in 1991. We've had about a 50% drop in landscape water use in our service area. And we don't have areas that are just not landscaped, or it hasn't all turned into concrete in Irvine. So it's certainly doable. It just requires good management and practices. So really, what's the bottom line with water rates? Obviously there's the how do you know what should you be looking for? Well, big sign of overwatering might be a high water bill. If you get a high water bill, okay, probably you are going to call up your water district and complain, but you might want to look at why you got a high water bill. Did you have a leak? Are you having overwatering and things like that? So don't just, well, do pay the water bill. I was going to say don't just pay the water bill, but do pay it first. But then take a look at that bill and see what information you can get from that bill. Look for red flags. Did you have a sudden major increase in usage and you didn't put in new plant material? Look at the costs. Has it gone up? If your water agency is using tiered rates, that really can help you flag high use. Not all agencies have allocation-based rates, but a lot of us do have tiers. You'll see tier 1, tier 2. Don't assume that just because you're all the way up in tier 5 that that's where you should be. Maybe not. Maybe you could have all your use in tier 1. Try to figure out why. Track your use and monitor patterns. Nick over there, our landscape, he's always telling me, take a look. When I see water use that doesn't change at all from winter to summer and my water bill is exactly the same 12 months a year, that actually is a problem because your water use should be changing. Customers tell us, well, I use the same as I used in February and August. That's not the way it needs to be. Here's an example of a customer. This is actually that same customer. You might see the September here. It says the 181. That was that bill I showed you. And this was an interesting situation. This was a customer who had been in an area that was not formally part of IRWD, and they were annexed in. And so they had not had the benefit of our tiered rates until September, or actually they went into effect in July of 2009. So a couple of things to point out. If this particular customer in 2008, even if they were just tracking water use, would you guys think that the June, July might indicate something? In fact, yeah, this customer had a leak. So even just tracking your water use, if you're not doing anything else with it, can show you a lot. Look at 2009. February 223, January 201. Very consistent water use. I wonder, was anybody actually working the controller or checking how much water was needed? This customer called up when they got that bill. They had 223 CCFs used in August and called us. Actually, they called Nick. And I think they told Nick, well, our water bill has always been $400 a month. Why is it over $1,000 now? Nick's response was, well, you shouldn't have even been paying $400 a month because they were paying $2 per CCF on the old rate structure, basically. So they didn't have quite such an aggressive tier, but even $400 a month, they should have been paying maybe $60, $70 a month. So that's a lot of money for property managers that you could be saving if you knew how much water you should be applying and what your bill should look like. Just because it's always the same doesn't mean that you're using the water efficiently. So then you see September, that was when they called, Nick went out, the 181. See what happened to their water use after that? Look at January of 2010. February of 2010. That customer paid a water bill. I checked their June bill right before I ran out the door. It was $59. So tiered rates can cost you a lot of money if you don't know what you're doing, if you're not managing the water on your site, if you're not actually having a water budget. But they can also save you a lot of money if you actually use the information and use it to really plan and manage the water on your site. So really, what's the bottom line? Is it just your water bill? Any other hidden costs that you might be getting? You know, how often do you budget for resurfacing your asphalt? If you've got water running out there all the time, eroding it, guess what? All of a sudden your budget for asphalt, maybe you could stretch it an extra year if you didn't have to do that. Look at the fence right here. How often are you going to be replacing the fences on your property? Again, this is just from, you know, and these are all photos that we've taken out in the field. Overuse of water doesn't cost you just directly on your water bill. It costs you in a lot of other ways too on the maintenance of your property. Here's more examples of hidden costs. Here, you know, here's a really attractive site that I think with maybe perhaps a little bit better landscape management, they might not have a big bald brown patch in the middle. Usually the response to that, if they're not good practitioners of water management, is guess what? Turn up the water. So the water use goes up, the site doesn't look any more attractive. Do tenants want to move in? Probably not. So really kind of what the bottom line is, manage your water use and control your costs. Take a look at your water bills. Contract specs can be really important. Are you really going for low bid? Because low bid is not necessarily what is going to get you good water management. Are you speccing that whoever is working on your landscape has some certifications in water management, that they've attended a class, that they're certified? Because if not, you might not get the person that really knows what they're doing. Site walkthrough are great for spot things like this. And there are lots of resources available, whether you have them yourself or from your water utility. A lot of us, we like to help our customers. Meter tracking sheets. You can read the meter every week, find out how much you used. You don't need to wait a month, every month for a water bill. The landscapers on site, have them read the meter. You'll know if you've got any big surprises or leaks. Utility-sponsored programs and water budget-based rate programs. If you're in Orange County, there is a free service available for any property manager, landscaper, HOA board member, whoever wants to get on. They can get on, and you can get free performance reports showing you your water budget. IRWD also offers this as a service to our customers because the person paying the bill might not be the person that needs to know the information. And a lot of water utilities are now providing this type of resource or help. So if you're not sure, check with your local utility, see if you have a program. Here's an example just of a free report that our customers can get showing them the amount that they're under or over their budget. How else can you stay within your budget? Well, after you've got the water management under control, if you still can't get there, maybe you need to take a look at your site. Do you need to make efficiency improvements that could help you? Controllers that might automatically adjust to a water budget. System upgrades. And they can improve your efficiency and reduce waste. So really you get long-term water savings for your site. So you got to manage it, and then you got to look at where you can improve efficiency. So really kind of to summarize, you know, water costs are going up, and I don't think anybody's expecting them to be going down. So how can you manage? You're going to see water agencies implementing rate structures, using water budgets, whether it's from your water agency or just something that you stick something in Excel or you track it on a piece of paper and know how much water you need to be using, can really help you save because it can identify problems with your site. So do that and take a look at the patterns of use. If it never changes all year round, that's a problem. Use the info to identify those problems. And then in order to stay within budget and control your cost, think about potential site improvements. Modifications to minimize your hard-to-irrigate areas, and how can you improve your system efficiency. And think about installing water-efficient irrigation technologies. Check with your local utility for rebates or assistance. If you're in Southern California, we have great programs both offered by Metropolitan and jointly through retail agencies, so check with us. We have websites. Commercial properties, Save Water, Save a Buck, we have water efficiency rebates there. So all of that can help you take advantage of these new technologies. There's my contact info, and I guess it's panel time.